Power. A goal we all chase. The power to survive, to save lives, to reach the impossible. But power isn't a singular thing. It can take any form. It can bend the elements, shaping them into entire cultures, aesthetics, even fighting styles. The potential of magic is infinite, so if it can create anything, what's stopping it from creating everything? And sometimes, that power isn't something you control, it's something you connect with. Forging a deep bond with an object turns it into an extension of yourself, a tool that amplifies your very existence. But where does that connection actually begin? Then there are energy systems like cursed energy, chakra, nen, forces that can be simple or endlessly complex. Why do they all feel so different yet still follow the same rules? So, if power can be anything, how do you create a system that actually works? There are 4 key concepts behind a strong power system. The first is the core foundation of the system itself. Is the power external or internal? An external power comes from something outside the user. A good example is the devil fruits in One Piece. Each user gains their ability by consuming a fruit, meaning the source of power is separate from themselves, and yet it still becomes part of them. An internal power, on the other hand, exists within everyone. In One Piece, Haki works this way. Anyone has the potential to use it, but it requires training, discipline, and willpower to unlock it. What makes this interesting is that external and internal systems don't always have to stay separate. In One Piece, devil fruit users can awaken their abilities. At that point, their internal willpower begins to sync with their external ability, pushing it beyond its normal limits. This creates a massive increase in power, allowing users to influence both themselves and their surroundings in new and unpredictable ways. In my manga, power exists as both an internal and external force. At night, those born under the moon are granted lunar magic known as Lumina, but those born during the day receive nothing. This means every lunar-born shares a connection to the moon, an external source of power. However, each individual expresses Lumina differently, shaping it into something entirely their own. To balance this, those born under the sun rely on artifacts, tools, and weapons, giving them a different way to access power. In doing so, they can stand on equal grounds with the lunar-born. So when you're designing your power system, start by asking yourself what actually makes sense at its core. And once you land on that idea, linger on it. Because the best power systems aren't built by adding complexity, they're built by understanding the foundation first. And that foundation can come from literally anything. In Gachiakata, the core idea came from something very ordinary. The creator once had a pen they were deeply attached to, something that carried a lot of personal meaning. When it broke, that sense of loss wasn't about the object itself, but about the feeling that it almost reacted to being destroyed, as if it had its own identity or presence. That emotional interpretation of a simple moment became the seed of the system. And inspiration doesn't always have to come from something personal like that. Sometimes it comes from something as simple as looking up at the moon and wondering what kind of world would have to exist for something like that to feel natural as a source of power. Power systems aren't always linear. They can branch into different paths, types, classes, whatever you decide to call it. How far they expand is entirely up to you. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, the system starts with 4 core elements: water, earth, fire, and air. But each of these branches into something deeper. Water extends into blood and ice, earth into sand and metal, fire into combustion and lightning, air into flight, and even spiritual projection. And it all works because it builds from the original foundation. A firebender suddenly stopping time would feel completely out of place. But if you follow the logic of the system, something like freezing time starts to feel more believable. That's the difference between randomness and a system that actually makes sense. Characters like Ryo from The Water Magician and Kunon from Kunon the Sorcerer Can See are both geniuses when it comes to water magic, yet they use it in completely different ways. Because having the same category of power doesn't mean using it the same way. If you want, you can move away from the categories entirely and focus on individuality. Is an ability passed down through generations, gifted at birth, or something you develop on your own? Often a character's power reflects who they are, but sometimes it's the power that shapes them instead. So what does that look like? How does that ability affect the character and everyone around them? Do they use it for good or for something far worse? Maybe their power is simple, but their creativity makes it dangerous. Or maybe it's something overwhelming, forcing its way through every obstacle in its path. Keep your core idea at the center, then branch outward into your main sources of power. From there, you can expand as much as you want, adding as many paths and variations as your system needs. You can even make the most random abilities feel believable. In Free-Ren, magic has no strict limits. There are spells to make clothes clean, perfectly flip pancakes, or even something as oddly specific as a shaved ice spell. And it works because the system allows it. So decide what fits your story best and build around that. In my power system, I focused on 8 classes, each representing a different phase of the moon. Within each class, most users share a core ability that defines their category. For example, amplifiers can enhance any part of their body, with the strength of that enhancement depending on the user's talent, control, and experience. In this world, abilities are not always as clear as they seem. Many powers can appear similar on the surface, even if they come from completely different sources. For instance, someone from the Imagination class might manifest a weapon that produces elemental effects, while someone from the Incantation class directly summons those same elements through structured spells. From the outside, both powers could look identical, even though the system behind them are completely different. Because in my manga, Lumina isn't only about power, it's also about illusion and perception. If you're still here, comment a crystal ball emoji. Thanks! Now, it's fun to create overpowered abilities, but if everything is special, then nothing truly stands out. That's why rules are essential in any power system. They keep things grounded and make the world feel more believable. What does it cost to use power? Do users have to sacrifice something? Is there an overarching rule that applies to everything? Or does each ability follows its own limitations? Do abilities have time limits? What happens when someone overuses their power? Sometimes, surpassing limits gives a character the breakthrough they need. But power without control always comes at a cost. My world does not reward reckless use of power. When someone exceeds their limit, they lose consciousness. If they continue to push beyond that without proper recovery, it escalates into a coma. Eventually, repeated overuse can break the mind entirely. These individuals are known as lunatics, people driven mad from overusing Lumina. Your rules can be as simple or as complex as you want, as long as they serve your story. You can even draw inspiration from multiple systems, combining different ideas into something your own. But there is a difference between inspiration and imitation. Build from what inspires you, not what you want to copy. A power system is only as strong as the world and characters that bring it to life. Some of my favorite stories understand this perfectly. In Witch Hat Atelier, magic is built into everyday life. Instead of a regular water pitcher, they use magical tools designed for the same purpose. In The Legend of Korra, entire cities are powered by firebenders generating lightning for electricity. And in Fire Force, the whole world, including religion and emergency services, is shaped around stopping infernals. But your power system does not have to affect everyone. Maybe it exists in secret, hiding beneath a normal society, only known by the people involved with it. Stories like Jujutsu Kaisen, Bleach, and Parasite make the supernatural feel dangerous because most of the world has no idea it even exists. Or maybe it's somewhere in between. In Tokyo Ghoul, normal humans know ghouls exist, but only vaguely. Society adapts around that fear by creating weapons from ghoul corpses to fight back against them. That's what makes the world feel believable. The power system is not only there for fights, it changes how people live. Because at the end of the day, the best power systems are not remembered for how strong they are. They're remembered because they feel alive. And now that you know how to make your own power system, have you ever thought about making your own manga? Because if you have, I made an entire video breaking down exactly how to do that too. Go check it out. Anywho, have yourselves a lovely day. Bye.